What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Kara Corey here. If you are new here, then thank you for joining me. And if you're not new here, then welcome back. On this channel, I like to talk about all things nutrition, fitness, and lifestyle related, as I am a registered dietitian. And as we are ending the year and entering a new decade, actually, I love doing these videos for you guys. I want to talk about some of the trends, the food trends, that I think need to be left in this decade. Leave them behind. Don't take it to 2020 with you. Before we jump right into that though, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel, hit the like button, ring my ding-a-ling, do all those good things to not only help out the channel, but also make sure you guys know every time I upload. I do these videos for you guys to hopefully give you guys some good, sound nutrition advice for you guys to be able to make long-term sustainable choices in terms of your health, because not everyone can afford a coach or a registered dietitian. So I'm here, I'm your girl on the YouTubes for you guys. Shout out to my co-host back here who's not a body pillow. This is Bruce Wayne. He is a Cane Corso. I mention that because I get asked that a lot of times down in the comments. He is just a big baby, if you will. All right, guys, trend number one that I want you to leave behind is going gluten-free if you don't need to be. So don't get me wrong, there are times when folks need to avoid gluten. There are certain medical conditions, things like celiac disease, there are allergies, and there are also intolerances. So if you fall into one of those categories, I am not speaking to you guys. So those are true reasons why folks do need to avoid gluten. But I feel like it was just such a trend this past decade, and it was more trendy for weight loss than necessarily medical reasons. I know some people have their feelings about gluten in terms of inflammation. That's maybe a talk for another day. However, long story short, in terms of the science and what we know, if you don't need to avoid gluten, then you shouldn't be avoiding it. There are a lot of health benefits from eating foods that do contain gluten. And honestly, if you take a look at the foods that are out there that are gluten-free, unfortunately, you lose a lot of nutritive value in a lot of those foods, be it what it may, if that's what you have to do. But if it's not what you have to do, then don't be victim to this trend and think that's what you need to do. Not to mention, you guys, it is a heck of a lot more expensive. And I feel bad for folks that are celiacs, because it's like, oh, you have a medical condition, and because of that, now you have to pay more money to get gluten-free foods when you go grocery shopping or when you go out to eat. So if you're not someone that does not need to be gluten-free, save your money, save your coin, put it back in your purse, because it's not necessary. So it's one thing I'm hoping to see die and stay in this decade. I do think we are kind of getting away from it a bit. I don't hear as many people anymore. Used to hear it all the time where people were like, I can't even be in the room with gluten. I gained 5 pounds. And it's like, come on now. That's just crazy talk. It's not necessary. So don't be afraid of gluten. Let's just not be afraid of carbs. Can we just do that going into the new decade? Can we just not be so scared of carbohydrates? They're great for us. So let's just kind of expand our knowledge, expand ourselves when we go into the grocery store, and really just don't limit yourself to food rules that are unnecessary. Trend number two, this one's gonna give me some crap, but we're just gonna say it. Keto. Let's leave keto behind. I'm not a keto advocate. Look, I'll be honest with you. I'm not gonna say that there aren't times and places where keto is not advantageous for certain individuals, again, based on your medical needs. However, I'm not a proponent of utilizing keto for weight loss or for long-term sustainability for someone to manage their weight and their health. That's it in a nutshell for me. That's just not my belief nor my practice. I believe, based on the science that I've read and seen, there are no long-term studies saying this is the diet that's necessary for health for long-term in your life, and that is what I practice. And yes, I practice an individualized approach. It looks a little bit different for everyone, and I don't like putting labels on it. However, I feel like keto is like, it's like a cult. It's like a whole little crew of people. If you're keto, everyone in town's gonna know you're keto. Like if I enter a room, it's like, hey, I'm keto. Are you keto? And like you want all your friends to be keto, and that's all you talk about. Maybe I'm generalizing right now, but I feel like that's just how it's been the past couple years with keto. It's really intense. I personally have known a lot of individuals to go on keto. I've worked with clients who have been on keto. It's not something that I've known anyone to really maintain for a long period of time. It is a restrictive diet, and I am anti super restrictive diets like that are taking out whole food groups when it's unnecessary. Because what happens, you guys, for most of us with any of these diets that are so restrictive, taking out whole food groups and really limiting you, is at some point you can't maintain it. At some point you go to the birthday party, at some point you're tired of it, you decide, I'm gonna eat the cake, or I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna have pizza, or maybe it's not even a big deal. You're gonna go out and you're just gonna go off keto. And a lot of people just go off the deep end. It's not like, I'm just gonna transition back into normal healthy eating habits and normal portion sizes for me and my weight. What happens with a lot of people with any of these diets, and in particular with keto, we see folks who not only gain their weight back that they lost with that diet, but they gain back an additional 10-20% of how much they originally weighed. So that just speaks to too restrictive of a lifestyle. If you're gonna go down in the comments and say, hey, I've been on keto since the womb, since I was born, and it's doing me good, I feel great, health indicators are perfect, then good for you. I'm not picking on you, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying, for me as a clinician, that is not something that I recommend to folks for long term. I think it's way too restrictive. We've got to do something different. We've got to do something different. Obesity is not changing. It's still here despite all these diets. So maybe we need to stop thinking about how restrictive we need to be and what new way we can be restrictive and eat as little as possible, and start thinking differently, and stop thinking about the diet. Stop thinking about what diet we need to be on, and start dealing with the shit inside of us that's causing us to have bad behaviors. That's what it ultimately comes down to. Oftentimes, it's a lot more than not making the right food choices about what you're putting in your mouth. A lot of times it's about these behaviors and the things that are going on inside of us that we need to deal with. Bruce Wayne's next trend is that plant-based meat alternatives are not everything in a bag of chips. And with that, because I'm definitely not anti-plant-based, but the fact that people think they're so much superior or so healthy and that they're just like the healthiest food ever. So I think there's just some miseducation about these food items. The Impossible Burger has just like soared through 2019 like it came in hot, you guys. And even your non-vegetarian, non-vegans are loving the Impossible Burger, right? But I think there's some confusion, and I just want people to be more educated when it comes to choosing plant-based. I think all of us should eat plant-based meals and, try to make the majority of our meals come from more plant-based foods. However, the meat alternatives kind of takes it to a new level where things are genetically engineered to kind of stuff into a burger, make it taste like meat. Just because something is plant-based does not mean it's healthy. So let's start right there. Just because something is plant-based, it doesn't mean it's healthy. It's a health food. It's good for you. I was vegetarian for a lot of years. I was vegetarian for well over 10 years. And one of the reasons why I stopped being a vegetarian was because in order to get enough protein in my diet, number one, it was extremely challenging. Number two, in order to do so, it was all heavily processed foods. So it was kind of like a conflicting thing for me because I wanted to eat things that were more natural, healthy, came from the earth. And then in terms of protein, it was just like, well, you're shit out of luck. And there was no options for me unless I got these like Corn was the brand, and Boca and things like that. Some are better than others. You have to be very careful, but the options out there now, like the ingredient list is insane. I'm just not a fan of the Impossible Burger in terms of the ingredients on it or the macronutrient nutritionals on it as well. So I think people just see that. And as a consumer, as someone who's maybe, again, not vegetarian, vegan, whatever, you go to Burger King and you're like, oh, there's an Impossible Burger. I'll eat that. That's got to be healthier. I don't think so. It's really not. And I think that's where stuff gets confusing. So I just hope that as we move into 2020, we'll continue to be more educated on what is a healthier option. And I'm by no means saying not to eat plant-based things. I wish more people ate beans. I've mentioned this before. I recommend this to my clients all the time when they're like, oh, I just struggle with protein. And I can get like that as well, especially with my history of being vegetarian. I'm not going to be eating 6 small meals a day with like chicken and animal products at each of those meals. It's not necessary, number one, but there are great ways to get in sources of protein, and beans and legumes are so underutilized, and there's so much great nutrition, and people just don't eat them. It's great protein, it's affordable protein, tons of fiber, tons of vitamins and minerals in there, and that's something that's healthy that you could be utilizing versus wasting your money on things like Impossible Burger that you riddle me what the hell is in there, because I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm going to say this too. I am a dietitian. I'm not someone that's going to be like, don't eat a food unless you know every single ingredient in it. I'm just not one of those people, because I also feel like live your life, honey, and like eat things too. So don't get me wrong there, but I just don't think that assuming that something's plant-based means that it's a health food and it's the end all be all in terms of providing you with good nutrition. It's definitely not. To have anything on occasion is fine in my book, but I think it's really confusing right now with the plant-based stuff of what's healthy and not healthy. The next trend is something I never really quite understood, and I can't remember if I mentioned this in last year's video or not, but why this got all trendy, I think, is just due to aesthetics, but basically, like, unicorn anything, I think needs to, like, just kind of, like, just go to sleep, just rest and die now. Nothing good comes from unicorn looking food or beverages. I know that became a big trend. What stands out most to me was like the Starbucks beverage. That was like this like magical, unicorns are magical. So turn it into a food and we have to have it. And I think Starbucks like hit it home with like their unicorn frappuccino type drink. I never tried it myself, but it's just like the unicorn stuff is like, I think it's more about looks, and I don't really quite get it. If someone can explain that to me, that'd be great. But I think it just a lot of times ends up being about the look of the food, so it's very aesthetically pleasing. Did I just say pleasing? I think I did. Can we just like create new words in 2020? Is that a thing? I guess I just don't get it. I was never on board with it. I don't think I actually ate anything that looked unicornish, but this is a trend that is kind of still out there. Hopefully it's dying down and we don't see it come back in this decade. The next trend that I hope dies, and it's not because I'm not a fan of this food, but I think it gets a lot more credit than it deserves, and that is celery. That celery cures everything, and it's the end-all be-all to every medical condition, diagnosis. You're feeling sick, drink some celery juice. You have cancer, drink celery juice. You didn't poop today, have some celery juice. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with starting your day with celery juice. And I think people are going to say celery weird. How do people say celery? I feel like I got made fun of for this last time. I always get made fun of for my pronunciation of stuff in the comments. I don't think there's anything wrong with waking up and starting your day with a big celery juice if that's what gets your jollies off. Waking up in the morning and have any kind of hydration. I'm here for, because a lot of us don't start our day that way. A lot of us start our day with either some type of caffeine source, or we start our day with absolutely nothing after fasting all night, and our bodies are going to be naturally dehydrated. So you can see where any kind of start to your day with hydration is going to give you that natural energy boost. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to make you possibly perform better just due to overall hydration status. Do I think there's something magical with celery? I just don't. I'm sorry, I don't. I know people do still believe in that, but I don't think any one food is a magic cure-all, and I think you should be having little red flags go up anytime someone's trying to tell you that it is, especially when there's someone coming from a business standpoint. So if you've got medical doctors selling you this and selling you different information that then leads you to buy their products, buy their books, buy their coaching package, buy their mastermind program, I think you should be an educated consumer and ask questions and just be mindful of that. Nothing wrong with eating it, drinking it, do you on that, but just be aware that it's probably not a magic cure. So I hope that moving into 2020, we can get away from thinking that like one food is just, it's going to save us from everything, from all our problems. That's just not reality. I think we would have figured it out by now if that was the case. The last trend, and I could probably come up with a bunch more, so if you guys like videos like this, be sure to comment below. But the last one I'm going to give you for today that I hope stays in this decade is the food for the gram trend. And I've been victim of this as well. But the gram has a funny way of making life look magical and special, and the way food has been almost like sexualized, if you will, on Instagram. At least for me, I've done my share of hashtag food porns and searching that hashtag, so I'm right there with you. When I've been in bodybuilding preps, it's almost borderline gross how many like food feeds and like Instagram profiles I watch, but some of the food and like how crazy stuff looks now that we can get. And I think in particular of New York City. To me, New York City is just like the mecca of all like foodie, Instagrammable, like visual appeasing foods. But it's outrageous. It's outrageous kind of what we're putting out there for you to go and eat and consume. It's like you no longer just go and get a milkshake. You get a milkshake that's got a cupcake in it with a candy bar stuck in it and a Twinkie, and then it's got another layer of like meat sauteed with peas and onions, and then a layer of jam and ladyfingers.
It's a trifle. It's got all of these layers. First there's a layer of ladyfingers, then a layer of jam, raspberries, more ladyfingers, then beef sauteed with peas and onions.
And then it's topped with another cookie or something. It's crazy. It's super crazy and it's ridiculous. And I don't know, the dietitian part of me feels like, it's not great that we promote that, and then like those are the visuals that we're putting out there for things to eat. Like it just to me screams like fat America. Like this is why we are the way we are, because we keep like upping it like one level. And I feel like, not that I'm super well traveled, but I know enough about other cultures and their eating styles to know that this is not the norm. We're just so excessive here in America. And in a way, it feeds the obesity epidemic. And is it Instagram's fault? I think you look at that stuff and it's hard to not want it. I mean, even for me, Levain Bakery is like what's known in New York City for like these giant ass cookies, and you get the beautiful picture. And I take them too, don't get me wrong. But my point is, you see this stuff and then you want it and then you need to eat it. And I don't know, where does it stop? It just keeps getting a little bit more ridiculous year after year. So I don't know, can we make like salads cool again or something? I mean, I'm not sure. I just think it's a little outrageous. It's probably not going to go anywhere because it is so visually appealing, and that's, as humans, how we respond. We like things that are pretty and bold and just out of this world that like create a reaction, right? So that's probably not going to go anywhere, but hopefully, you know, it kind of dies down, or maybe the noise of that is drowned out with like healthier messages about, you know, how to balance that shit out if that is what you choose to indulge in. Those are going to be my top trends that I hope stay in this decade and do not come with us into 2020. I'd love to hear below what other trends, food trends, diet trends you guys hope are dying and dead we don't see anymore. I'm sure I could come up with a ton more. There's a bunch I've missed. Maybe you agree with me on some of these, maybe you don't, but I would love to hear your thoughts below. As always, smash the like button if you did enjoy this video. It does help out the channel, and we will see you guys in the next one.